So, what is healthy aging? Well, what we know is that there are 11 hallmarks of aging that are associated with either healthy aging or premature aging because of the effects of a whole range of environmental and internal things going on with our bodies. The first one of these is what we call genomic instability. And these are our genes, basically getting down to our DNA. And our DNA is made up of all the little segments, and each segment is our gene. And as cells continually replicate and they're affected by environmental factors such as overexposure to sunlight, electromagnetic field radiation, toxins coming in, the DNA starts to get broken and the genome starts to become unstable, and that means we get errors in the way proteins are formed, and then we start to have problems. Another one that's also to do with the DNA is telomere attrition. Right at the ends of your DNA, these little caps, often referred to as like the little plastic bits around the end of your shoelaces that stop them fraying. And that's essentially what the job is of the telomere, to stop the DNA from fraying and unraveling, because then we can't use that DNA. But over the course of our life, those telomeres slowly start to shorten. And actually, they were one of the first biological clocks that we started to use when we were talking about biological age. We've advanced beyond that now, but telomere attrition can be sped up and it can slow down. And so in unhealthy aging will cause the telomeres to shorten faster, and healthy habits and healthy aging means we slow down telomere attrition. And still on the topic of the DNA, of course, is epigenetic alterations. So we've got our DNA, and we know our DNA is made up of our genes. But just because we got the genes doesn't mean they've been turned on. So epigenetics really is talking about the genes that are being turned on, or what we call the genes that are expressing. And so if we engage in healthy habits and we look after our body, then we turn on or start to express the good genes. If we adopt poor lifestyle or poor dietary habits, or if we're affected a lot by stress or environmental factors, then we run the risk of turning on the genes that we don't really want to start expressing themselves. And so we can alter that epigenetic expression by the healthy habits that we live. Number 4, loss of proteostasis. And this is something we see a lot with aging, because we see as people age, they start to lose muscle mass. And so loss of proteostasis is really associated with unhealthy aging. And it's because we lose the ability to produce and use effective proteins. And so staying physically active, keeping the muscles strong, make sure that we maintain proteostasis and we keep healthy bodies. Number 5. It's impaired nutrient sensing. Once we eat food and we take that into our bodies, those nutrients get extracted during the digestive process, they cross over and they start to circulate around our bodies. And we rely on the cells of our bodies to be able to sense the presence of those nutrients and use them. And if we are aging well, then our body remains sensitive to these nutrients. It can sense them and it can bring them in and it can start to use them. Through oxidative damage and stress at the cellular level, our cells become less sensitive to those nutrients. And even though we're eating a good diet, our cells just aren't using them efficiently. Number 6, one of the hallmarks of optimization, energy production. And in this case, it's mitochondrial dysfunction. The mitochondria are the powerhouse of the cell, and they're creating the energy, ATP, that drives life. And when you're working in the optimization field, we need to keep mitochondria in optimal condition and functioning well to produce lots of energy. With mitochondrial dysfunction, that can occur because of toxins, it can occur because of oxidative stress, and it can occur because things start to penetrate into the body like sunlight, and it will damage the mitochondrial DNA, and therefore the mitochondria will start to dysfunction. It could also be that we're just running out of the important cofactors, the B vitamins, the antioxidants, those sorts of things, and therefore we don't produce energy efficiently and our bodies become progressively more fatigued. Number 7, cellular senescence, or simply senescent cells. These are old cells, As we start from the stem cell starts to divide and create a new cell line, and those cells divide, and then the next generation divide, and so on and so forth. And down the end of the line, we get these old, cranky, senescent cells. The DNA's been damaged, their proteins inside the cell have been damaged, and they're not really functioning as well as they should be. And we call them senescent cells. And ideally, we want to clean up those senescent cells and get rid of them so that we keep the stem cells dividing and giving us fresh, new, functioning, efficient cells. And we can do that through autophagy, and things like intermittent fasting are ways that we can start to induce autophagy and get rid of senescent cells. Number 8, stem cell exhaustion. So like the senescent cells where we got the old cells that start from the stem cells, in stem cell exhaustion, what we've got is that those stem cells have been dividing and dividing and dividing over many, many, many years and decades, and they're exhausted. They just aren't able to keep dividing efficiently. And if they don't keep dividing efficiently and producing new cells, then of course we're going to increase senescent cells at the other end of the line. Number 9 is altered intracellular communication. The average adult human is made up of somewhere between 75 and 100 trillion cells, and we need to get all those cells working together, and that happens through cellular communication. There's different molecules and proteins and chemicals that move from one cell to the next cell to a whole group of cells to help those cells communicate. Over time, if we're not maintaining our health and we're not maintaining a good, efficient, healthy internal environment, those cellular communications start to break down. Therefore, the cells aren't talking to each other and they're down. And therefore, we start to see dysfunction creeping in. Number 10, extracellular matrix stiffening. So we've been talking a lot about inside the cells, but actually the environment outside the cells is just as important. That's called the extracellular environment. There's this whole matrix of proteins and other structural elements that help to hold all the cells together. Otherwise, we'd just be a great big blob on the floor. And so what happens, we need to keep that environment really well hydrated, very fluid, and we need to make sure there's good proteins going in to build that matrix. If we don't do that, what happens is the matrix starts to stiffen up, and therefore the tissues start to stiffen up. And we know what that happens when we age and people start to say, oh, I'm aging, I'm getting stiff, I'm getting sore. Well, actually, that's extracellular matrix stiffening. And so hydration, stay moving and keeping healthy helps to offset the effect. And now the final one, number 11, dysregulated circadian rhythm. This is our sleep-wake cycle. It begins the moment you open your eyes in the morning to the moment you go to sleep, sleep through the night, and open your eyes again the next day. If we dysregulate the circadian rhythm, which basically means we start to dysregulate cortisol and its relationship to melatonin, then we start to have problems with sleep. And sleep is vitally important to health. It's one of the core things that people should focus on if they're interested in health optimization, and that is optimize sleep. If you dysregulate your sleep by staying up late and getting up early and then sleeping in during the day and missing all those important time points that help to set our 24-hour cycle, you're going to dysregulate the circadian rhythm, and that's going to advance aging. How do we address the 11 hallmarks of aging? Well, of course, we're going to start with the pillars of diet, exercise, stress management, and of course, sleep. We're going to get those fundamentals right first because they're the key elements. After that, there's a whole bunch of things we can use. We can do techie stuff like red light therapy and hyperbaric oxygen, or what's becoming increasingly popular are molecules. We can start to use important things such as resveratrol and NMN so that we put molecules in that support those healthy cellular functions, protect the DNA. We use other things such as intermittent fasting so that we can clean up those senescent cells, and we can set up a plan for each individual person so that we are not just giving them prescriptions of things, but we are going, these are addressing the 11 hallmarks of aging. And so if we do all of these strategies together, then you should be aging more healthy.